Privyet, Sergey, welcome. Very, very nice to have you. As you can see, my Russian is flying by leaps and bounds. But anyway, very, very good to have
Oh
you
yeah,
with us.
it's
Today, you're going to
good.
be telling us about migrating MongoDB to Kubernetes. What's up, Sergey? How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you. Yeah, I'm joining from Russia, so it's pretty late for me, but I really enjoy that. Thank you
Good.
for having me today.
All right. It's all
So
you, man.
yeah,
Whenever you want to start, go for it.
sure. Yeah, so my name is Sergey. I work at Percona as a product manager, and my main focus is on Kubernetes, on our operators, on cloud technologies, and everything which is related to that. And today I'm going to briefly take you to the journey of migrating MongoDB to Kubernetes. And first of all, this is the talk plan. We're going to talk about why someone wants to run MongoDB on Kubernetes. I'm going to talk a bit about the operator that we have at Percona and some other options. We're going to review the migration options. I'm going to show you how the migration through the replication can be done. It is going to be an overview, and I'm going to show you some demo quickly just to showcase that what I'm talking about is real, right? So it's not something that I'm imagining. So this is a pitching slide. So Mongo on Kubernetes, is it a thing? And the short answer is yes. At Percona, we have lots of customers and lots of community users using our operator to run MongoDB on Kubernetes. And they run it in production for various use cases. And the MongoDB on Kubernetes space is exploding day by day, and I can see uh, growing, which is an interesting case, though. And if we talk about the whys, the first thing that we usually hear when some big enterprise, a company comes to us, they want to avoid the vendor lock-in, and usually talk about Atlas or Ops Manager. And the main driver is usually the cost. Well, not that obvious, but it is. And another item there is that there are not so many managed services. What I mean by that is, if you look at the MongoDB space, you can see it's DocumentDB on Amazon, but it is not the real Mongo. It is Mongo-like-ish database, right? There is DigitalOcean and some other vendors which provide MongoDB, and it is all because of MongoDB non-friendly SSPL license. It's not so easy to provide a managed service. And when people start to think, okay, how can I run Mongo if not Atlas, if not on managed service? What are the options? I still would love to have the automation. I still would love to have day two operations, which are super important, scaling, taking backups, upgrades, and everything else. And I want to avoid vendor lock-in. I don't want to be stuck with one cloud. I want to migrate from Amazon to Google and to my private cloud at any time I want. And the answer here is the operators. And there are a few of them. One is Percona. I'm going to talk about it a bit later on. Another one that I really like is KubeDB. If you are participating in the DoK Days, and you should know about KubeDB. It's a Swiss Army knife operator to run databases on Kubernetes. It can run Postgres, MySQL, Mongo. The only thing that might stop you running KubeDB is that it follows open core model, so some of the features are not available for free, like you cannot take backups, for example, there, which is a showstopper for production use case, obviously. And another one, there is also MongoDB community operator, but it doesn't have backups as well. It's not very suitable for production, I would say. And another item here on the why is MongoDB runs good on Kubernetes. And I'm saying this after running Postgres and MySQL on Kubernetes, and it is not that hard to run Mongo, and I believe it's mostly because of its design and the ability to scale easily, and it's more aligned with Kubernetes primitives and Kubernetes ideas of deploying the containers, the pods, and this volatile environment that Kubernetes brings in. And well, obviously running Postgres and MySQL is also possible, but I find that running MongoDB on Kubernetes is much, much easier. So if we talk about the Percona operator briefly, first of all, it's obviously 100% open source, as everything at Percona. We have sharding out of the box working, so you can deploy your MongoDB cluster and scale it out, scale it in any way possible. You can add more compute resources, more storage, and everything else, which is awesome. We support backup and restore with point-in-time recovery. So reduce your restoration time to the point you would love. And we do that by uploading op logs to remote storage. So it's more aligned with the Kubernetes way. So we don't store backups locally, and you can easily migrate from one Kubernetes to another. Well, that's fun. We have integration with Percona monitoring and management. It is our tool to monitor and manage the databases, and it works out of the box. What I like about that is you deploy the database and you have all the metrics and alerting right there where you need them. For customizations, we have custom sidecar containers, which means you can extend your MongoDB cluster with any monitoring tool of your choice. You can deploy a benchmark tool on this in the sidecar container, and many more. So customization works just out of the box nicely. We have automatic upgrades, and the last one is multi-region deployments. This is one of the features that I'm going to highlight in this talk. It's the new one, which we delivered just recently, and it is focused on solving two problems mostly. First is disaster recovery. So if you have two Kubernetes clusters and you want one Mongo in, I don't know, in US and another MongoDB cluster in Europe, for example, you can set up a replication, a single replica set across two clusters. It's fun. And another use case for multi-region deployment is obviously the migration capability that it also provides. So you can migrate into the Kubernetes and out of Kubernetes easily. And I'm going to tell you how it can be done. So the migration options that we have, well, it's not only for MongoDB, but almost for any database, but we're going to focus on MongoDB. So the first migration option on the left is through backup and restore. So you take the backup of some replica set, which is running somewhere on-prem, you put it into some S3 bucket or some other storage, and you deploy the operator on Kubernetes with the replica set as well, and you do the restoration to this replica set. The only downside of such approach is the huge recovery time, right? Because the bigger database you have, if you have multiple terabytes or petabyte of data, restoring it is going to take some time, and you're going to breach all possible SLAs, which you obviously don't want. But it is the most simple way possible to migrate the database from point A to point B, including for MongoDB. And another way for MongoDB specifically is to add remote nodes which are running somewhere else to your on-prem replica set. So it's the picture on the right. You have a replica set running somewhere on a Linux box or, I don't know, on Atlas, on Amazon, and you want to move it to Kubernetes. What you do is you deploy the operator, you deploy the replica set nodes, and you just add these nodes to the on-prem replica set. You synchronize the data, and then you can switch the application to the MongoDB that you have in Kubernetes. And that is what I'm going to highlight today and talk about in more details. Well, I have one more slide in the demo, so it's going to be quick. So this is going to be the setup that we're going to have, right? On the left, we have an on-prem MongoDB. It is anywhere again. It can be data center, it can be bare metal, it can be cloud, it doesn't matter. And you have a desire to move it to Kubernetes. So number two is you have a Kubernetes cluster with the operator deployed. But the key here is that the operator is going to deploy these nodes in unmanaged mode, which means they're not going to form a replica set itself, and you can only add these nodes into a replica set which is running on-prem. I'm going to show it in the demo for simplicity, but this is the key item, that these nodes are running unmanaged. So no replica set formed on Kubernetes for now, right? This is the key. And the third thing here is that we're going to need to expose each and every replica set pod or each and every replica set node to either the outside world or some private network where on-prem Mongo can reach it. And the reason is each node in the replica set should have access to each other. So it's like a full mesh deployment of nodes. And the reason, again, here is they need to form a quorum. If one node fails, another one's becoming the primary, and so on. So exposing the nodes is a key here as well. And step number 4, we're going to add these nodes to the on-prem replica set. This would just kickstart the synchronization process. Once the nodes on Kubernetes cluster are synchronized, you can switch the application to use them and then just slowly kill the on-prem MongoDB cluster. And it is important to note that the same process works the other way around. So if you want to move out from Kubernetes to on-prem for some reason, you can do it through the operator as well. The beauty here is that once you finalize this migration from on-prem to Kubernetes, you have a fully managed cluster on Kubernetes. The operator takes care of all day 2 operations, so backup, scaling, and everything. So you can finally forget about the on-prem pain. And when I say pain, when I was preparing to this talk, I was just spinning up a MongoDB cluster on DigitalOcean, I think, or on some Linux boxes. And it took me a lot of time because I forgot how hard it is to spin up something manually without the operator. With the operator, things are much, much easier, and you just forget how hard it is to configure everything with your own hands or with some scripts. So the demo, let's get down to it. It's going to be a quick one. Let me share my screen. I think it's this one. Yep, share. Yes, I'm lazy, so I recorded this demo and I don't want anything to break. So let me, it says Kisima. So in here, I have a replica set. It's just one node. It's some Linux box running somewhere. So single noded replica set. And on the right side, I have a Kubernetes cluster. Well, I'm going to show you here the custom resource. The custom resource is the main manifest to deploy the database through the operator. So the operator is just a piece of code which takes as an input the custom resource. Well, it probes the Kubernetes API and checks for specific custom resource in Kubernetes. And if it sees it, it does something. In this case, when it sees this custom resource YAML file applied to Kubernetes, it says, okay, I need to provision an unmanaged MongoDB cluster. It means nodes are not forming a replica set, no certificates are created, nothing, right? And it says, okay, I need to provision 3 nodes of a replica set, but it ignores the replica set name. And it also sees that, okay, I need to expose these nodes through a load balancer. I'm doing a load balancer. I do not recommend you to do the load balancer because it might be pricey. And also I do it through public internet, which is obviously not recommended. There are other ways to do it, like through some VPNs, tools like Submariner, and so on. But for the sake of demo, I'm going to keep it simple. I already have this cluster running. So in here, you can see I have an operator deployed and 3 pods. They are called replica set 0012, but in reality, it's not a replica set. It's standalone pods for now. But we're going to turn them into the replica set later. And here I already have services, and you can see I have a load balancer per each node, and I have a public IP. I also created some domain name just to simplify the deployment and the configuration so that I don't need to specify the IP addresses anywhere. Okay, good. So let's now add these nodes into the replica set on-prem. So this is on-prem. This is my single-noded replica set. I want to migrate it to Kubernetes. Now I'm going to add these nodes into this replica set that I have on Kubernetes. So 1, 2, and 3. Once I do that, what should happen is the replication to these nodes should start. And as you can see, they are already added into the replica set and they are marked as secondary. So here I have ID1 is my on-prem replica set node, and ID2, and going further, ID2, 3, and so on, are my new nodes on Kubernetes, and they're already marked as secondary. I don't have much data on my primary, so the migration is going to be super fast. I think it's already finalized, but let's see. Yeah, I think it's already done. I'll wait a bit. So, okay, yeah. Let's see. Okay, yeah. Migration is finalized. Now I'm going to reconfigure the replica set. I'm going to make one of the nodes on Kubernetes side as primary. Obviously, before doing that, you need to ensure that your application knows about these nodes. I'm not going to focus on application part here. I am going to focus on databases, but be careful and make sure that your application knows where your new primary is and so on. And yeah, I'm setting the high priority and I'm allowing this node to vote on Kubernetes, and I'm reconfiguring the replica set. What should happen now is the nodes in this replica set, they are going to, one of the nodes is going to become primary. So right now it's still the one on-prem with this IP address. It is still primary, but after I re-execute the command, I can see that my node on Kubernetes is primary now, which means that I'm ready to switch my application there. But before doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote my Kubernetes cluster to become managed. And it's really super easy. I'm going just to change this unmanaged from true to false, and that's it. Now I'm going to apply this YAML file to my Kubernetes cluster, and the operator now manages this replica set completely. So whenever I want to take a backup, whenever I want to scale this replica set, I can now do it through the Kubernetes. I can now forget about this on-prem node and just remove it from the replica set. And that's it. My data is now in Kubernetes, and my data is now, or my cluster, MongoDB cluster, is now managed by the operator, which is kind of awesome. And this is a short talk and a quick demo. And I also have a blog post where I describe in details what you should do to perform such a migration and what are the key benefits of it. But believe me, running MongoDB on Kubernetes is much an easier journey than running it manually. So that's it from me today. I really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming and listening. If you have any questions, please ping me on DoK Slack or through email or through Twitter. Thank you, everyone.